subject a little bit, Dan, but can you visualize that hospital project even moving forward in these conditions, or?
Well, they claim we're gonna break down the first month. You know, this project has been on the cusp before.
Right.
And Gunderson has changed direction, so it looks like we're getting close once they start. Hate to see something that happened to our day at the end of the year.
Oh, I gotta get an agenda here.
Can I use somebody's agenda? I know I got it last night. This part, I don't need that.
Okay, looks like we're all set. Okay, I will call this January meeting of the Property Committee to order at 9:02. I can certify that open meeting law requirements have been met. You had in your possession a copy of the minutes from the previous meeting. Any corrections or anything on that?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. As I said, are there any corrections or changes that we need to be made for that meeting?
I have to call everyone's attention to the subjective comment made by the secretary, otherwise a quiet month. Somewhat suspicious.
Under
comment.
which area was that?
That's, with its,
Maintenance?
what area, it's not
Or-
an area, it's sort of an overall comment on the,
Oh, I thought it was attached to
yeah, I guess I'll let it go this time.
information technology. That was a quote.
Okay, no other comments? All those in favor of approving the previous month's minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, if any of you are watching this live and you'd like to make a public comment, you can do so now by calling the number 715-538-1770. We'll give you a minute or two here to call in. If not, just call when you feel you can. I don't think it pays to wait any longer. Okay, moving on. Samuel's group. Go ahead.
Morning, everyone. Good to see you here today. I guess I want to begin to let you know that Dan and I just left the radio station, and I think that was requested last time we met to give an update kind of to the community on how the project is progressing, where we're sitting with the budget, progress, all those sorts of things. And I guess if you guys have any questions from any of your constituents moving forward, please feel to send them to me because we can talk to them directly. If there's some concerns that are there, I want to make sure that the community stays informed about how things are moving along here. So as you see out there, block is going up. We have precast scheduled to be here the end of February. And obviously, structure is on its way to be able to support that precast. Many of our elements that we have in regards to long lead time items are in the process of being approved from our shop drawing so that we can get them ordered to be able to meet our scheduled date. I think the biggest thing that we want to talk about is the overall budget and value engineering items that we're pursuing. I've given you a packet of information here, and there's several construction bulletins. It starts with construction bulletin 8, and it goes down through construction bulletin 15, and I just want to explain to you what those are. So you had heard some rumors and discussions about that we're swapping out materials and we're just willy-nilly making some changes out there on the fly, and that is so far from the truth. I can't tell you how far from the truth that is. Everything that we're doing here is documented in regards to changes, and they are put in construction documents, okay? So the process that we did with the value engineering is when we received the bids from contractors and we were over budget, we reached out to those contractors in that 45-day window that we had before you had to approve contracts to find out if there were any suggestions or ideas from contractors as to potential savings ideas. That's all that was. was a vetting to see if there was savings possibility. We created a list that identified some potential savings, and then we took those back to the design team, the architects, the engineers of record, and they evaluated some of them. Some of them they said we absolutely will not approve because they're the engineer and design of record. Some of them said that's a viable option. Let's put that in a construction bulletin. So what the construction bulletin is, and I want you to look at the very middle of the page here, it says this is not a change order or direction to proceed with proposed changes. It's in bold. It's on every construction bulletin. What this bulletin is it's an issuance to the contractors to look at proposed changes and to price them for us. And those price changes will come back to us in the form of potential savings or adds, depending on what that scope is. And then we bring that back to you as the committee in regards to whether you want to accept them or whether you want to reject them, okay? And CB 8 through CB 15, majority of it is potential savings items. Some of it is also some clarification on some ceiling finishes and some detention finishes from the DOC. So some of them are mixed in with these CBs as well. Our intent was to have all of the pricing for these CBs back to you for today's meeting. Many of our contractors had told us that suppliers had not gotten them the numbers, so they weren't able to get them to us today. So there isn't action for you to take action on these CBs today. But I think in the best interest, it would be good for you to take these back and kind of dive into what they are if you have questions on them. So Kurt, our project manager, has put together a summary, the one that has our company's logo on it and title that's on there. That's a Reader's Digest version of a description of what's in that CB if you get bored to death of reading the details that are in CB 8 and that they link back to these drawings. So the drawing sheets and the CB 8s are all referenced in regards to when it says the sheet area, E221D, that is the sheet area that's in here that shows the changes. So we've given you that backup, and if any of you want us to go over with you individually on these items to show you the scope, we can. But I just want to go through this sheet here that says Samuel's Group on here and give you a brief overview of things that we're considering, okay? Change order number 8 is the ones that I talked to you about, the detention grades. So we're dealing with sprinkler, light fixtures, and diffusers in regards to detention grade changes. Number 9 is dealing with potential value engineering. It's dealing with different fittings, it's dealing with different sinks, and it's dealing with a different mop sink potentially in regards to what those faucets are. The HVAC is dealing with a different diffuser. That's just this item that's in the ceiling right here in regards to the diffuser that's there. The hydronic piping, it's a different piping option that was in there in regards to the flue polypropylene venting, and then also allow positive pressure gas vents. So these are some value engineering items that the engineer of record has said, let's get those numbers from contractors. CB 13 is removing colored conduit. They had colored conduit that identified whether it was security, whether it was fire alarm, or whether it was emergency control. The conduit was actually painted throughout the entire structure. So we pulled that out and we're actually just going to label them. So there will be areas where it's painted, but not that it's continuous paint. So you'll still have notification. Jeremy, when he gets up in the ceiling, will be able to see what's there. It will be labeled. It will be spot painted, but it will not be a continuous color in regards to the pipe. CB number 12 is really some changes in regards to the lobby area. There is a stairwell that takes us up to the upper level. There's also some clear story windows in the courtrooms. So on the sides of the courtrooms, there's actually some natural light that gets allowed in there. We reduced the number of windows that are in that clear story. Not all of them. We did talk to the judge about it, and he said if you reduce them, that's fine. Want some natural light, but we did reduce some of the glass that's in there. Also, what we did is we removed some recessed brick above some of those windows. There was a recess in the brick that gave it a little bit different look, so we pulled that brick so that it was flush. So you can see some of these elements on number 12 is really a finish element. It has nothing to do with the performance of the building. It was more an aesthetic component that was tied into number 12. 13 is a wainscot. This was a wainscot that was on the tile in the restrooms, to be able to bring that wainscot or the tile on the walls, on the wet walls. We've changed that model. And 14 is changing the metal doors and showers to aluminum frames. And then 15 is adding some fiberglass sheeting into the judge's platform for the court space. So collectively, all of these items are all out for pricing from the contractors. I was really hopeful. I was pushing my team to have them here today. That's why when Chuck, I asked you to move it to the end of the month. This has been something that's been in progress through the month of January. So after the holidays, we met with the design team. We talked about all these options, had created this list and put these CBs out here. This is all in an attempt to be able to reduce the overall cost of the project. You don't have to accept any of these if you don't want to. But it is going to be an impact in regards to what the budget is. We're going to come back to you with each one of these CBs and price them for you to make decisions as to whether you want to accept those savings or not. So I guess what I would like to do is I'd like this to be the next item on our agenda, and I don't want to wait a full month. What I would like to do, if you guys are open to this, and you've been pretty flexible with us, and I'm thankful for that, is that when we start to get these numbers in, which I'm anticipating will be next week, can I reach out to you to set a date rather than waiting or setting a date now that we're not ready for? And you know, maybe we target within the next 2 weeks we meet, but we don't have a firm date. That way we're coming back to you. You've got some time to dive into these. If you have some questions and you want to ask any of my team members, me included, we can give you those answers between now and when we meet, so that when you come here, you know what CB8 references, you know what CB9 references. And then that way we can make decisions on the overall cost.
Is that agreeable to all committee members?
Yeah.
It's better than setting a date and then you not having this
Correct.
stuff again.
Yeah. That's how I feel today. We targeted the end of the month, and with what's going on in the market, I think contractors are just having a hard time getting pricing from certain vendors I think they're reluctant to lock into some numbers at a period of time, so.
Just a comment, Kurt.
Yep.
I think it's interesting, like number 9 there, changing faucets. It seems to me like
Right.
that's a $1 or $2 item, but maybe it is bigger than that.
Well, and it's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, but
every dollar counts.
Every dollar counts, and I guess
Okay.
that's the way we're looking at it. And
Okay.
it's one of those things that when you come back and you say, does it really make sense if we change that? And if Jeremy looks at it and says, hey, you know, I don't want that, at least we've identified the number, right?
Okay.
I don't want to be the individual that sits back here and says, hey, there's no way we can look at costs. We're uncovering everything that we can for you. I want you to know that, so. The other
I have a
thing.
question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tim.
I'm glad you brought up Jeremy. Jeremy, have you seen these before?
Most of them, yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot now, but as Doc mentions, most of these, all of these changes involve a change that I really don't know what difference it makes one way or the other.
Yep.
Is it that faucet or that faucet? I would like you, maybe when we come to the next meeting, if you have any comments, if you have any now, please make them, or if you have any, but at least in a couple of weeks, can you let the committee know if you have any concerns? Does it make any difference to you if all the conduits are not painted, but they're labeled?
Stuff like that, they reached out to me already via email to get my opinion. They gave me 3 options on this, which one that I prefer.
Okay.
And I gave my,
So you've had some
anything that
feedback.
affected me directly was brought to me
Well,
already.
practically all of these things are one way or another will affect you. So,
I-
that's my concern is that.
I guess I can tell you from some of the finish elements is that you're not going to notice a difference in regards to what the finish element of that building looks like. It's not substantial changes. It's not like we're lopping off, one wing of the building. But the brick reveal that's above some of those windows, you would notice it. But it's not something that if it isn't there, you would go, hey, I missed the brick reveal, right? So those are the sorts of things. And those are the areas that we're tackling right now, because it's been clear from your group and from the board that you do not want to compromise quality because the markets have increased. That message, and maybe I took the message wrong, but that message was clear that I told the engineers, I told our design team, is that the county is not looking to compromise quality because the markets have went up. But if there are areas where we can find some savings, they want to know what that is. And that's what we're doing right now. Now, if there's elements after this exercise that the savings isn't enough, and you guys want to look at some significant changes, we still have that opportunity to do it, because we're very early in the project. But, again, there comes a consequence with that if we decide we want to make some changes. So,
One more question then.
yep.
Go ahead,
Chuck.
Tim.
Again, it's very specific, it's a very specific question, but it's probably something that's multiplied by thousands in the building. So in CB09, number 1 says mechanically formed braised T-fittings in place of specified T-fittings. What are the specified T-fittings, and how is a braised T-fitting different than a specified T-fitting? Realizing there's probably many hundreds of these in the building.
It's a mechanical system that, when we talked to Paul Hansen, who's the engineer that's there, is that it was an option that the contractor talked about in regards to specification. Now, there were 2 other options that he just said he wouldn't approve because he didn't feel that the longevity was there. But this was just a matter of how it is brazed versus how it is soldered in regards to the connection. And some of them are also some welded connections on some of the metal pipe. So it's brazed, or whether it's welded, or whether some of those are soldered, it has to do with different size of piping. So it gives the contractor some fluctuation there, but it will not be a performance issue. And I think that's probably something that he talked to Jeremy about as well. So,
I'm good with those.
What is a mechanically formed braised T-fitting? What does that look like?
it's brazed rather than welded. It's a
Are these
connection.
copper fittings?
No, these, he has some of them are steel, some of them are copper. So each one of those fittings is different in regards to giving them that
Since you can't
flexibility.
weld copper.
Correct.
You always braise copper. So-
Correct, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Again, I'm looking very at details, but I know
Yep.
the details will be repeated many
Correct.
times in the building.
Yep. So one more thing to consider, because I know you guys were talking about funding, and I just want to share with you what other counties have been doing. The ARPA funds that each county has had, and these are things that I'm just dealing with other counties on their budget, is that the ARPA funds, from what I've been told, have been freed up in regards to what it's used for. And I think that happened within the last week or two. Before that, there was some focus on emergency response elements that were used for ARPA funds. And without you even knowing it, you're investing those dollars into your community with the new EOC, as well as with dispatch. So there's components that are tied into that element of the project that you're investing into the infrastructure of your building that is really in response to some of the things that came out of that pandemic that you were already addressing in the scope of the project. So I just say that because it's an element for you to think about in regards to funding, that if you wanted us to carve out what is that value worth, we can give you that number at the next month's meeting to say, hey, we're investing this infrastructure in emergency response for both EOC and dispatch, so that the element of that is understood, that it's something that you already invested in, but that these ARPA funds were focused to be able to fund that. I know that's a decision for you to make in regards to whether you want to use those funds for some of this overage, but that would be something consistent with what the intent of what that was, even though the restrictions have been lifted on that over the course of the last week, so.
Please do so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, whether we actually take it from ARPA funds or not, it'd be a good number to know.
Yep. And that's what we've seen, is that those are significant dollars that are being invested, and we can identify them for you so you can say, hey, we've taken care of this in the project as well. So,
It helps to label something as identified and say, well, here it is, here's where we
Yep.
spent the money when we go for funding.
absolutely.
Okay, so what you need from us then is agreement to come to another meeting when.
That's all I'm really looking for, is if there's a time that we can meet within the next 2 weeks after we get some numbers. I'm anticipating by the end of this week, we should get some, and then probably clean some up next week, but then we can come back with you with some numbers.
So that would be the second week in February.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so for committee members, 9 o'clock, a good time? And we'll check so there are no other committee meetings that morning, and we'll go from there? Does that sound agreeable to everyone then? Because you can call me, I'll set the date then, and then you'll be notified of it. Yeah, if you let us know a few days ahead.
24-hour notice.
Because Paul has to get it posted, so.
Yep, okay. Just one more thing. I know that when you drive by the site over the last couple of weeks, there's probably been some days where it's been pretty quiet. And a question was asked when we were at the radio in the interview about the timing and the schedule. We have built in some time for these weather issues, and obviously for purposes of efficiency and performance, when it's sub-zero weather, the project is not going to have a lot of work going on. There's some work that could still take place, but then we wait until we get above those sub-zero. So the last 2 weeks have impacted us with some of those days, but if the forecaster is right, it looks like it may be better in the course of the next week or two, and we're hopeful for that. So it's not that we're just waiting on progress because we want to. It's because of the weather element that's tied back into that. So.
Okay, any other questions for Kurt? Well, thank you for the update, and we'll see you in
Okay.
a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Good job on the radio show. Thank you, again, for whoever decided to do it. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you
John
all
made
for
us do
coming.
it.
Did John made you do it? Okay. Thanks, John.
I thought you did a good job.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Thank you. So yeah, just give me an email, pop me an email, and we'll arrange it with Paul and then let everybody know. Okay, okay, sounds good. Okay, Mr. Robertson. I thought he was. Well, he lost his spot, Jeremy. You can move up then.
Get up in front where I can see you.
Right to the back visit.
He's just talking to them.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. I'm sure yours isn't going to be real long.
No, mine's pretty simple. I don't have any major issues, concerns, or anything that's happened over the past month. So, like I said, the biggest thing is the staffing for my department. So we did go through interviews. We did narrow it down to a few candidates, but unfortunately, the first one that we picked didn't work out. So I'm meeting with HR actually when I leave here today to continue that process. Other than that, the only thing that was brought to my attention earlier, it was last week, I guess, is there's a department here in the building that is inquiring about taking over the Wisconsin room permanently until the remodel of this building is done. So they brought it to my department first. I don't have an issue with it being maintenance, but I told them it's not maintenance's decision at that point, because it would affect Paul Severson's office for conference rooms. It would, and the biggest one is going to be IT. And I brought it up to Tim. I don't know if they've spoken to him yet or not, but they wanted me to bring it to property to see if they would have if you guys would have an issue with it. But again, it would have to, Tim's going to have to speak on that. Paul might have to speak on that, because I don't think there's enough phone lines in there to hold all three people in that department, and I don't know how about the...
Is that land records?
Land records, yeah, there's Ann there now. So again, as a maintenance standpoint, I don't have an issue with it, but like I said, Tim's going to have to weigh in on that, and Paul's going to have to weigh in on that as well. So, so when that comes up, so they had me bring that up under the maintenance department updates, but
Is that something we would have to have an agenda item to do, or?
well, right now it's just bringing it up because under the
Yeah,
maintenance
and
department
that's why I say
update,
that's
but there's
something we should put on.
there's nothing in action that you can take because it's not a separate.
Question for you. Where are you at with the vehicle? Have you been able to do anything with that?
Yeah, I've started to go through that process now too, because I couldn't do anything until
Okay.
the new year happened, until the budget took effect, but I should have
But
one
you
of
have a
those.
Bobcat here to do.
I do have a Bobcat. The snow, I haven't had an issue with the snow so far this year. The hardest part has been that dirt parking lot, trying to find the balance in between of trying to keep the appropriate amount of snow so that there's the ice underneath without
Right.
people slipping. But, and then trying to work around the vehicles over there. But as far as I know, I haven't had any issues or slips or falls that have been brought to my attention with it yet. But I do have the appropriate snow removal equipment here for the remainder of this season, so. Speaking on the land record, if they want to speak on it, I don't have an issue with that, but again, I don't think you can take any action on it
No,
because it's
that's
not
what I
its
was gonna
own,
say.
it's not its own line item right now. but-
Probably we'd have to put it on the agenda so we can take action on
Yeah,
it.
but again, on my point, maintenance has no issue with moving them because it doesn't really affect my department so much as help just relocating them. But again, Tim would have to speak on it for IT standpoint and Paul for the room itself. But other than that, as maintenance, I have no other issues this month unless you have any questions for me.
Okay, any questions?
What's that gonna do for
future meetings, are we gonna have to shuffle everything around and put them in the other part of the basement, or?
If this department were to take
Yeah,
over that room,
if that
that's
room
something
gets
that, like I
taken-
said, Paul would have to speak on. Like I said, I don't know how many meetings are taking place. The only one that I know that is in that room on a regular basis would be the auditors. But that's kind of few and far between as well.
There's a lot of go between your office and that office during the audit, so.
That's the only thing, but we can arrange that.
Yeah.
That's no big deal.
So did you want to comment on it, or?
I just wanted to bring it up that land management is adding new staff right now, so they're running out of space for their staff. And the other thing is they put a key thing on the door, so public can't get back to us. They have to use the land management staff to come back to see us. So we're not very accessible to the public anymore.
I have some questions about.
Go ahead, Tim.
Some concern about that. That's the best spot in the building practically is that room. It's the only conference room that's readily available to the chair, the clerk records the office and so forth. And so Dick, you've been in there for months now, right? I don't want to make the wrong assumption.
No, when the construction for the pipe that had to be rerouted for the drain on the roof of the building here, I went down and sat there because we had to vacate our office. And during that time, because it was tax time, I didn't want to be working from home. So I just relocated for that entire week down there, and Ann and Tess worked from home. And, you know, it worked great. We had no computer issues or anything like that, so. And, you know, the accessibility to the public helped out also.
Yeah, it is the best place in the
Yeah.
building. How about the other two rooms down here, what's the one over here? Trempealeau room and Packer room. Packer room is about the right size. I mean, I can see where you're getting squeezed out of land management.
Well, I think the Packer room, we had talked about, and with Jeremy stating to us that there are times where Human Services uses that room for certain reasons, with families with children and stuff like that, so that's that room that they use. Plus, it was talked about in the past not having any offices located in that part of the basement especially. That's why everybody was kind of moved out of there, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Except for you.
Paul, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that since you're gonna have a meeting within the next 2 weeks, I can put it on that agenda.
Put it on, so that,
But the one thing I'll also check, because that room doesn't get reserved an awful lot, like it used to be, you know, where you guys used to meet, and the property used to meet, all these different committees met. It doesn't happen anymore, so.
Which room, Paul?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, okay.
Well, that was the reason why Ann tasked me of looking into the logistics of it, measuring for square footage, the use of that room, not only for meetings. So when we had to vacate our room because of COVID reasons last week or 2 Fridays ago, so it could get fogged and stuff, and we needed a place to go and sit, so we just went and sat there for that hour time period. And so we called you and kind of talked to you about, like, how often does this room get reserved and stuff. And then I looked into the phone issues, and then we talked with Daryl with IT stuff, and knowing that we were able to function that entire week by working out of that room, because not only Ann and Tess worked from home, their computers sat in that room, they just remoted into them. So it kind of took away some of those issues right there.
okay, Dan?
It's my understanding that formerly we moved staff out of the basement in that wing because of health concerns, and I would be opposed to putting land records in that area. Also hoping that the maintenance office gets moved out of there in as quickly as possible, because I think there were some very real concerns about health issues when we had staff in there full-time, both dispatch and IT. They're serious concerns, and I would be vehemently opposed to moving staff into that area.
Okay.
And the only thing that I've got in that room right now is, that's where our paper supply is in the closet, but we can make arrangements to get that someplace else, so they'd have access to that closet also.
And Chuck,
Go
the other
ahead.
thing I was going to mention in talking with Jeremy is, at some point, there's going to have to be that transition with the two buildings being tied in. And so I guess if with us vacating that area kind of alleviates that problem in the future. It might not be next week or next month, but at some point, that's going to have to be discussed. And I guess if we're out of there now, you're really only dealing with one department when that time period comes too.
Okay, any other comments? So what we'll do then, we'll put it on the agenda, Paul, when we meet with Kurt, and we can get that taken care of in the next couple of weeks then. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I do, Chuck.
Go ahead,
One
Tim.
more, it's related. I'm trying to remember when this came up. I think it was last week. I heard that Derek is, what's Derek's last name? TV?
Westby.
Westby. Derek is leaving. And actually, whatever committee I was on at the time we were meeting here, the other two members of the TV studio talked about staff shortages and problems in using this room. So one of the reasons that the Wisconsin room has been empty largely is because the board has used this room almost exclusively to get the TV coverage. And that may be a problem in the future. So if Derek's leaving, the process for hiring his replacement hasn't even started. That will leave just two people running the TV studio and trying to make all the arrangements for televising these meetings. It may be harder to use this room, or this room may not be as available. Again, something to, everything's all tied together, and we just factor it in as we move toward a decision in 2 weeks.
Okay. Any other comments before we move on?
You asked for IT's opinion?
Yes.
Okay. We don't normally have desks with a single network connection. Create some issues, but they have 3 connections in there that are functional. It's at the very end of the length that you want an Ethernet connection at. If you're going to move 3 people in there, I would recommend adding some cabling. But you're talking about $1,000 or something like that. It wouldn't be too outrageous to run some additional cabling. You are restricted to the 3 walls because of that closet on the one side. And then printing is a question. I was wondering how you were going to address that.
We decided we would be able to leave our printer and our plotter where they're at. So they're in a little kind of cubby hole in our office right now, and it wouldn't be usable for a staff or a desk. So we would leave it there.
And just get some exercise. That's what I do. I print to an office that's down the hallway. So as long as you're not adding a printer, because I don't want to add any printers.
No, and as far as the regular printer, I can continue to print to that one, or because Paul's got a color printer and stuff like that, I would just print in his office and go and grab just the 8.5 by 11 sheets.
You'll have to get badge permission to go through that door.
Yeah, or either that or I'll just buzz them. Give me my paper.
But Paul, do you do buzzing?
No, we don't. But Nick had mentioned too that the door that would go to John's office right now probably would be blocked. So he couldn't sneak through that way to come and get his copies. Unless they made a little up thing.
I don't know.
We'd probably also have to remove the TV, but that's not a big deal. Jeremy's people would probably do that, right? Yeah.
That was the whole reason why we were going there.
Sorry.
Okay, so we'll make a final decision at our next meeting then. Those of you involved in this can think of anything else that may be a problem or a positive toward this move. Thank you for asking. We'll move on from there. And like I said, we don't know when that meeting will be for sure yet. Depends on when Kurt gets back to us, but probably the second week in February is what we're looking at in a couple of weeks. We'll put it on the agenda for that. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else, Jeremy, or that's all you had? Okay, so Tim, then, we can go with your update.
Thanks. We had the MLK Day training and did a presentation, and I wanted to share some of the numbers with you because I know you guys look forward to all the IT numbers. So in 2021, we had close to 5,000 tickets for service, and that's a 35% jump over 2019 and a 10% jump over 2020. So it started to level off last year, and the trend started to go down as we had more people coming back into the office and people had their stuff figured out. So that's good. Security issues. We received 234 security bulletins in 2021 related to products that we are requiring, that we use that required intervention by staff. So somebody had to review these 5 to 15-page security documents, verify that we had patched or had mitigated the security issue. That's like triple what we normally get. So it's getting to be an obscene amount of stuff there, and that's falling mostly on me since my staff don't have time for that.
Tim, is that number included in your 5,000 tickets?
No.
Okay.
Those are bulletins we get from MSISAC and various agencies that monitor cybersecurity for the feds in the state. The average number of critical vulnerabilities present at all times is 1,992 inside all the PCs that we have on our network. The average number of total vulnerabilities at any given time is over 9,000. Average number of domain policy errors per day, 127. Average number of new processes run on PCs requiring an investigation, 145. The average number of antivirus, anti-malware protective actions taken per day on our clients, 27. And the average number of anti-exploit protective actions taken per day is 4. So we are being hit. We are being attacked. We have shenanigans at all times. But so far, the materials and software providers we've put in place have protected us, crossing the fingers. Email. We average about 59 spoofed outbound emails coming from inside the network per month. That number is very low. We implemented changes required by the state. We were one of the first counties to get that online. And so we have well-behaved employees that aren't trying to send personal emails from their personal accounts inside our network. That's a really low number. We're proud of that.
And I'd like to interrupt. It was nice you sent that email about that, the last one, we get that email, what is it from? It's the one we got just last week.
From the guy in Osseo Ford?
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Osseo. It's good to know that, so that we see that come up. Because some of us deal with Osseo Ford,
Right.
we could very easily open that. It was nice to know that there was potential there.
Well, that, again, it all depends on our users. So the sheriff got one of those and recognized it as hinky right away, forwarded a copy to us as a ticket. We saw it, we know a lot of people interact with Osseo Ford for the county, so
Yeah.
we sent that out.
Yeah,
So
I
our people have to
appreciate that.
catch it first. And that's, the number of blocked phishing emails is close to 2,500 a month. Number of blocked spam emails is over 3,100. We received over 1,500,000 email messages in 2021. So projects that are on board right now.
Jim, could I have one, on that topic before you, it sounds like you're
Yes, sir.
moving on. I'm still getting email messages from several salespeople on my county email. I cannot think of the names right now, but I get them frequently. I don't know. I don't know how, if you could legitimately block it, but I keep getting it addressed as the town of Hale.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get that one too.
get them too.
What, maybe you can take a look at that. That's practically every day. Town of Hale, town of some other town.
There's about 3 or 4 different towns that
Right.
send you emails, and they're all looking for
Well, it's not the,
information to take back to county board, and it just,
it's not the town, it's a salesperson.
I could probably show it to you on the computer.
Yeah, let's do that after the meeting. You can show me what you're talking about, and then we can investigate that. So that's the first I've heard of that particular.
It's virtually every day.
Yeah.
If I get an unsolicited email, I label it as junk, and then that sender automatically goes to my junk folder every time, so.
What should we do with one like that? Just send it as junk?
Well, if it's something that's
I just-
unrequested, but you don't think it's dangerous, you can just delete it.
I delete it, that's what I've been doing, but,
If you think, if it's got a link in it and it's enticing you with something like, hey, you're gonna get,
well, they're trying to sell you a program that they're selling to Town of Hale.
Yeah, I just delete
which
those.
Figure I'm running the Town of Hale, or they figure he's running the Town of Hale.
I
It's not-
have nothing to do with the town.
Yeah,
I
I said,
don't-
well, what the hell?
Right.
yeah, feel free to share whatever you'd like with us. You can forward that email as an attachment and say, is this legit? Is this something we should be concerned about? And we'd investigate it for you. We have no problem with that.
Okay.
Projects, the largest one in front of us right now that we think is going to go the easiest is migrating the finance system to the cloud in March. So we'll be retiring the I-Series sometime this year. once we've moved to the cloud and we've spent 6 months operating. It's through our current provider, Avenue, so we're hopeful that goes off without a hitch. Everyone wants to get paid and have the fund balances correct, right? We're finishing up the TCM Human Services Database project. That was expected to be about an 18-month project, and we're a little bit past that, but not doing too bad. Human Services is doing a nice job being very methodical there. We still have to finish the Esri map interface for dispatch, so I'll have to bring a request to you, a resolution to carry forward the funds you approved previously, because there's an interface that has to happen, and we need land records to finish their piece before we can move forward. We're going to be rolling out the new log system that you approved. We're going to call them back, and that product's going to ship this week. My staff is ready to move forward on that one right away, so dispatch will have their new replacement logging system. We're going to be doing a trial and test on Microsoft Teams as a phone solution so that I could make and receive phone calls using Teams inside my personal device, my laptop computer, or what have you. We bought 10 seats of that, and we're going to try it out with certain department heads and unsuspecting villagers to see how that goes. And then we're doing the core network upgrade RFP, and that's a topic I'm going to have to discuss a little further. The new data center design and RFP creation is going to take much of my time, and then we're starting the rollout of multi-factor authentication. We announced that at the MLK Day, and we've rolled that out to registered deeds and veterans, and that's going well. So we have a few more kinks to work out to make sure we got it all right, and then we'll be rolling that over the next month and a half. And that should really secure things for us. So that's what we talked about at MLK Day. The RFP, basically right now I have the RFP written. We've been working with a contractor on that to get it worded right and correctly spelled out. What we have to work with is with the Samuels Group and the design team to verify what exactly is going to go on these core network elements. Is the audiovisual equipment going to run across it? Is the Wi-Fi exclusively going to run across it, or is it going to run on something else? So I got to get a lot of questions answered with them, and I spoke to Kurt in the hallway, and we're going to have a meeting this week. We hope to release the RFP February 1st. I've got a lot of people waiting for this one, and then we're going to put a deadline at the end of February, so hopefully we can get some answers on that. A lot of vendors are 6 to 9 months before they can deliver anything.
What is this
switching-wise.
RFP for again?
This is the core network. $250,000 was approved in the budget for 2022 for that, and it'll be all the switching, the core network switching, the edge devices, everything that makes our network talk inside the new building to the old building, and out to the rest of the world. So it's all inclusive, and I'm really glad you made that decision to include that in the 2022 budget, because that's not something that has to be a part of the project anymore, so we don't have to worry about finding ways to cut on that.
Stop for a minute.
I'm stopping.
Chuck, can I ask
Go
you a
ahead,
question? Tim, I wanted to ask you, you brought up the building, the new building. Any of these construction bulletins, have any of these, any of these affect you, or have you communicated with the Samuels Group about any of these?
This is the first I've seen it, so I'll have to.
Please, can you also, I asked Jeremy to get back to us if he has any concerns, and
I will look these through. I didn't see anything off the top. The conduit paint thing gave me pause for a moment, but then he said that there will be markings. It's just not going to be throughout the
well, it wouldn't be
entirety.
the same as having the whole pipe painted.
Color, just a mark.
So,
Just a marker. I think it'll be okay, but I'll talk it over with the team, and we'll figure that out.
I don't know, how do they would go along with a spray can, or what, I mean, what on earth, how do they?
They come colored from the manufacturer.
Do they have 12 colors or something?
Yeah,
like
they
that?
got different ones for gas and electric conduits, water. I mean, there's just thousands of different colors, or I shouldn't say thousands. Ton of different colors for, especially when you're dealing with commercial building. And that's just to keep you from having to label it. You're supposed to know what the color is.
Yeah, I mean, but I could see that in the future might create a problem. I mean, if the conduit runs through, you're gonna have to have a label almost every 3 feet or
That's the
something.
problem with labeling.
That,
Yeah.
if they're colored, then
You make a bend and come down, you gotta have it on every side of
You ever
that.
done a car wiring or wiring loom, you know?
So
you're
does the
supposed to-
labeling gonna take away from the cost of just getting the colored conduit? You know, those are big things you gotta take into consideration, because it
I'm a
could be,
little
like you said, a lot of labels.
Yeah, I think you got that. You got that, you got that right. It could get weird, so I want to
Yeah.
look that one over.
Yeah.
Um,
So if you could do that before our meeting, that would be appreciated.
Good point, Tim.
The other element I wanted to discuss today was the TV studio.
Right, put all the thousands of labels on it.
Lost them.
Yeah, it's okay. The TV studio, wanted to address the issue that happened in here. Daryl did come down after that difficult meeting for Human Services, part of it being that that was one of those after-hours meetings, so there wasn't anybody around, so that ended up going sideways. He did track down the problem to two broken elements, and they repaired those, and now everything's fine. But that is a concern that, and it was mentioned when Derek was the hire, and Derek's first initiatives were to upgrade the technology in the TV studio, which was a welcome for the studio itself, but did give IT some concerns because we didn't want to have to maintain it. You're adding technology and switching and whatnot down here. I don't want my staff having to maintain it, and as long as Derek's here, no problem. Well, now that Derek is leaving, with him goes the technology expertise and the things we've acquired. So now my staff will be down here assisting on that, which is fine, but I think we need to, property and I believe UW Extension and Ag is the governing committee for TV studio. I think we need to have some discussions about the long-term future of the TV studio and how that is managed, budgetary and technology-wise. You need somebody that understands television and audiovisual and scheduling and programming and all that stuff, but there's a technology backside that doesn't necessarily have to be a part of that department, or maybe it does, I don't know. But I think we need to work through all that so that you're not getting pantsed in these situations where you need this room for a meeting and there's nobody here to support it, or that we're stuck taking care of stuff that we weren't built to take care of. So either we have to get up to speed on it in IT and take it over, or we have to find a way to mitigate that somehow, either through consultants or whatever.
Well, or making the job description for the new hire having that background or expertise.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know, but that is it is a possibility.
It's a possibility, and if you
But
can find
yes,
that unicorn, then
yeah,
it'll
you
all
can
work
find-
out.
Yes, exactly.
So there's all kinds of things that you are going to have to decide, and one of them could be you could end up combining the departments. You could end up folding them into a different group altogether. There's all kinds of things you're going to have to consider, and I hope that you're going to be open-minded on that, because I really want property to be involved in that discussion, because we don't want to get stuck in a situation where I've got my people running at all hours to support the TV studio without any kind of control over what happens on the budget side of the equipment and the software that's being purchased.
It begs the question, if that responsibility for the TV studio was given to you as the head of IT, how would that work?
Speaking of a unicorn, okay.
Well, as far as managing the budget and the time cards and the personnel and scheduling the meetings and organizing things, that would be fine. Without any audiovisual or programming knowledge, you'd still need somebody that could manage that particular aspect of it and be in charge of that particular piece. I wouldn't be able to be a stand-in in that regard, but there'd be no problem with the managerial elements of the job. Does it come with any treats, or does
Well,
that,
yeah,
is that
it
strictly
does.
I just get stuck with that?
Donuts. Me, the uninitiated, would seem to me that, in my experience with the TV studio, it's morphing more to an information technology aspect than just plain video. You know, and that's been evident well, since Derek got hired. So I would see that in the future, a very real possibility that that's going to continue, and there will be more and more of an IT connection to the television studio, where your department, as a matter of course and necessity, is going to have to be more involved. And I would see to it that you would have to be more involved on a regular basis, and maybe we should make plans in that regard from here. I understand what you just said about the programming issue, but maybe when we're looking to replace Mr. Westby, that we keep that in mind, and whoever we get would be responsible for that aspect, with your department and you in particular as managing the two departments.
I think that would require some deep thought and,
Yeah.
and some conversations. But yeah, it's a possibility. I think, but I just want this committee to be a part of the conversation, if you wouldn't mind, because I think this involves a lot of things that my department is involved in, and I don't want to get pantsed where we're stuck maintaining things we didn't sign up for. We want to have some say in what goes on as far as technology acquisitions down here, regardless of how you figure that out. But if you would work with that committee and we could figure out something, that would be appreciated.
Well,
A couple people on that committee that are on this committee right now.
in the same regard, I'm assuming that some of the actions that Mr. Westby has taken might not have been discussed at length with you prior to.
Oh, yeah, they were.
They were?
We're all in favor of the upgrades he made
Yeah.
because it was necessary for this to function properly. It was a good step forward. It was, and we knew that the possibility would be that he would leave and then we'd be left with a problem. But it was, we advised those that asked, including Mr. Westby, that this was worth it. We felt this was a good idea to upgrade the switching and the technology in the TV studio, and the benefits are there. And John was asking for these as well. He just didn't have a real plan that he was ready to execute, and Mr. Westby came in and did an outstanding job in moving the studio forward. Sad to see him go.
It would just seem to me that the two departments are going to be working closer together in the future and not less. I see maybe a slow or maybe not so slow migration towards more of an IT aspect in the TV department as we go forward. That seems to be where a lot of the changes are occurring. New software, that it would only make sense to me that your involvement get more involved in that regard and not less.
We did address that when we were asked for our input on the remodel design. We wanted the TV studio to be next to IT or near us, at least their equipment near us, so that we could work together on these things instead of having to run and all that kind of thing. So,
Okay, so more discussion coming on this.
more discussion coming on, and that's most of what I wanted to cover, unless there's any other questions.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Chuck, I want a little more discussion on that. If we're talking about someone combining departments or assigning more, a greater workload to the IT director or changing the job description of the TV studio director, since we've been discussing Mr. Westby, I have reliable information that says that Mr. Westby is leaving to take a very significant, it will receive a very significant salary increase and a 50% assistant in his new location. So if you're talking about hiring somebody to do both jobs, and you may be talking about a significant change in, I don't think, frankly, I don't think it's possible, but we're talking about a significant change and a very expensive change, potentially expensive.
Okay. Okay, anything else, Tim?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Okay, items for next agenda. Definitely, we need to probably put on the discussion on the land records
That one I've
move,
got.
and the one for the building across the street,
Oh,
remember that is something that we gotta look into too? Them wanting us to purchase that building. Was that Sally that I think talked about that?
Yeah.
We probably need to get the ball rolling if,
Our lease is good for another year now, right?
I thought we're on a month to month.
I thought they did it for a whole year at a
Did we
time.
do it?
How can we do something?
Well, we need to look at it and at least get the ball rolling on that, either agree or disagree on it. Anything else that anybody can think of?
So in that
Couple
discussion,
different places where
ADRC
they
stays
pop up.
over there, what's gonna go upstairs?
Yeah.
Where,
Well, that wasn't the plan. Our ADRC's plan was to still come here.
Yeah, we would purchase this building as a place for meetings with some of the programs in the area.
Like a resource center for
Yes,
a little bit of everything.
yeah.
That wasn't the assumption that we would get a ADRs, or not ARP,
Yeah.
recovery money,
Yeah,
COVID money.
she thought, yeah,
Or-
that
I
the
think
recovery
that
money,
fundamental assumption is uncertain,
Yeah.
I would say.
I
She-
think we're gonna get it, but it's over 18 years of small payments, and they're gonna do up to
what we need to buy it, yeah. But that's a discussion I think that we need to have at this committee meeting,
It's all 20.
to get it started anyway, at least. Yeah, it's got to go through property before we move it on. Can anyone think of any other items that we need to put on the agenda?
We have the Samuels coming to December.
Okay, and that would be at our regular meeting, okay, because we're kind of talking about two different meetings now.
that's what I was getting at, okay.
We got a meeting with Kurt coming up, and I don't know if we want to put too much in that meeting either, because who knows how long that's going to take. We are, okay. So that discussion of the building next door, would wait until the regular
Oh,
meeting.
this one will be on the regular.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think I want to fill up the agenda too much on that special meeting. Who knows how long that's going to take? Unless some of you think we, what's,
land records. Do we want that on there?
no, the land records we could, that's going to be pretty quick
Really
discussion.
fast.
Yeah. Can anyone think of anything else that needs to be on either of the agendas? Okay, if not, we need to look at a date then.
So for regular.
I think your date is whenever Samuel's group is ready. So
Yeah, but I was talking about the regular.
Oh,
Okay, so yeah, we agreed then that I could schedule an 8 o'clock meeting if we check with Paul to make sure there are no other meetings that morning, or excuse me, at 9 o'clock. Any dates that are definitely out, he's probably looking at the week of February 6th.
Is that what he's thinking?
He said 2 weeks.
Well, that would be next week and the week after.
Yeah, that would be the week after, toward the end of the week. Because he said that he thought they'd get these stuff. Depends on when we want to do it in the week. Do we want to try for a Wednesday, or?
Any conflicts, anybody have a comment?
Probably later in the week is better because he said one week to get everything and the other week to get
Yeah,
the other.
yeah, so that's what I'm
I thought you were
saying.
discussing regular meeting here.
Well, we're looking at, we don't know when the
2 weeks would be February,
Week of the 6th.
week of the 6th, if we do it toward the end of the week, the 10th or the
When is
11th.
exec finance? It'd be that week of. exec
Monday
fin-
the 7th.
Monday the 7th.
Mhm.
Just
So,
don't schedule
February
on top of
7th to
that.
the 11th, the second week, basically.
Yeah,
And you talked about Wednesday?
well, we can't set it right now. That's
Yeah.
what I would say, is there a day that's better or not good for anyone?
well, if everybody
Tuesdays and
likes
Thursdays are
the
best
9th
for
or
me, but I
10th,
think any day it would work.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I'm good 9th or 10th.
9th or 10th, either Wednesday or Thursday, we'll
Yeah.
look at if he's ready by then.
Right.
Okay, then a regular meeting, are we looking at the last full week, the week of the 20th?
Our board meeting is on the what?
28th.
Monday
28th.
Of the end of the month, right?
Okay,
22nd,
okay,
What day of the week?
Tuesday.
So
Tuesday.
the day after,
Now,
same as we
is-
did this time then.
Paul, is the courthouse closed on President's Day, the 21st?
Not anymore.
Not anymore,
I
okay.
just switched, of course, all my publications have the 28th because we work closed. Now it's a personal holiday. People can take it off if they want to,
Okay.
but we're open for business, so. it
Do we
could
wanna
be
go
that way, but
The 22nd then? That gives almost a week till the regular board meeting, if we need something on the agenda? 22nd, 9 o'clock, good with everyone then?
Okay.
Okay, anything else we need to bring up before we close the meeting? Okay, hearing none, I'll adjourn the meeting then at 10 o'clock.